neighbors. Hi, neighbors. Earthquakes in southern Turkey and northern Syria left a trail of devastation across the region. Thousands have died, thousands more injured, and hundreds of thousands have been left without essential necessities. As humanitarian needs have soared, the International Rescue Committee has launched a full-scale response to help as many people as possible. Can you rush your entire life savings to us right now? Fuck no.
What is your name?
What, my pen name or my real name or what?
Your real name, please.
Yeah, in creative endeavors, because I changed my name, 15 or so years ago for creative projects to be Cy James instead of Jim Seibert. So,
Why?
because a voiceover from Cy James sounds a little bit cooler than a voiceover from Jim Seibert. So I grew up in a few different places in the Midwest, but never felt at home in the Midwest. Never felt at home in my home or home in the Midwest. And so at the age of 20, I moved out to California with my girlfriend. And I kind of divorced myself from my parents' world, or started to, was really big. That's when I can remember what was happening. I was crawling around trees and bushes on the side of my house when I was 8 years old, and just basically said to myself, you know, I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to leave these people. My parents didn't like each other very much, and so they would be arguing constantly and into the night. And so I had a radio right by my bed, and I would turn it on and then turn it up depending how loud they were arguing and screaming at each other. And so music became my life raft, and that was like at about age 7 when I really became conscious of what a bunch of, a couple fucks they were. Put it this way, how much they didn't like each other. But no, I was your classic B student, that basically teachers say, oh, you could do so much better. Fuck no, I couldn't do any better. Bore the hell out of me. In other ways, we were kind of like suburban terrorists. On the weekends and stuff, we did things, they dedicated this fountain. They were going to dedicate this fountain that was just actually a few blocks from my house. Basically, they said, okay, they're going to dedicate the fountain, but we're going to make that water red. I mean, a lot of the way who I am was a reaction against my parents. I did not want to be who they were. And so I was, became this. I was part of the counterculture at that time, 60s counterculture, did the whole counterculture thing. I was too influenced by Frank Zappa. So even as a teenager, I critiqued my peers, my hippie peers, almost as harshly as I critiqued the dominant culture of my parents. I had really come to terms with a lot of some family stuff, and I was incredibly self-destructive, so I did a lot of drugs. I was an alcoholic by the time I was probably 20 or 21. And in a way, I lost my 20s. I didn't really start pulling out of this until I was in my late 20s. I always like to say that the best decision I made in my 20s was to get a vasectomy at 26. Well, I originally got to be a filmmaker because my biggest influence and the thing that gives me the most joy is music. And I realized I listened to, starting in my late 20s, a lot of 20th century classical music. Not, Bach, Beethoven, which I explored later, but 20th century classical stuff, which was really abstract, avant-garde and stuff. And that's the stuff that really made me feel connected to the world and inspired me to be artistic. But I also realized that I couldn't go back to school to become a composer because it's just too much. There's too much everything. It's too hard. And I thought, well, making films would be easier. So I chose film. I was going to Lane Community College in Eugene, and I was taking a sound class, and I had an instructor, Jill Johnson, who came to me one day and said, "You'd be great at doing voiceovers," and I just laughed. Didn't take her seriously. And then like 10 or so years later, I said, "Well, give it a shot. You're not doing anything, you know." I got into it when I was too old, basically. If I would have gone straight out of school or and started doing voiceover in the 70s with my announcer voice, you know, I probably could have done a lot of trailers. But I got in too late. How I wrote those 2 books? Well, when I was in 6th grade, and I don't remember the incident, but I acted out a lot, and the librarian said, "Get out of here. Get out of this room. I'm glad you're going to middle school next year. I don't want to see you in here ever again." And so, I don't know, I wanted to do something positive in my life around books. I decided to volunteer at Multnomah County Library and read to kids, preschool kids, at daycare centers. And so they sent me out to a few daycare centers east of Portland, lower income. And so for over 10 years, once a month, I was going out and spending half a day or so reading at different daycare centers. But I thought it would be a great idea to share some of my fantasies with younger readers and kind of apologize for, because I probably did, I don't know what I was doing. I just want to kind of make amends, put out a couple books that just put smiles on people's faces and go, this is a pretty, this guy's okay. Anyway, that, you didn't really have to know all that horse shit, but anyway, that led to... Hello? Nick?
Hi, what's up?
Oh, Nick? Nick?
Oh, this is going to be high tech.
The guys are here, and they're asking about Pickles and and Disney 3 and your role in this stuff. So why don't you start off and just tell them what you want.
Oh, God. All right, Pickles, the birth of Pickles. I'm a grown man speaking about this shit.
Pickles started, my friend Nick and I, Nick lives on the East Coast. I met him in film school. He's been back in Danvers, Massachusetts for, I think, 15 or so years now. But anyway, Pickles started during the COVID lockdown because we kind of, all of us are kind of in our own worlds. And I've always been in my own world, and it just magnified things even more.
Pickles started, my friend in California was called Pickles, and she became Pickles, the character Pickles, and she wore a rain barrel with suspenders. And that was the origin of our Old West saga.
So it's not really explained, but somehow she shows up and we start, Pickles, she lives in a barrel. She has a barrel that's been built around her. So, as for, for protection. Had an idea of this woman who's been terribly abused. She doesn't say a lot, but she's surrounded by kind of a typically Western culture, American Western culture, where we have all the, the usual players in a small Western town.
And so we were communicating every day, and before long, we were designing a movie poster for a film we never shot with, I think, like up to 50 characters all on the poster itself, and then we had stars like Jeff Goldblum, who was going to have a scene under a waterfall with our friend Jeff.
Nick, this is a public school. I'm not sure we can go there.
Oh.
The whole Pickles saga and where we're going here, other than text, I've written down nothing but this page of Pickles characters. That's the only document I have of this whole fantasy. So all that is just like in my head and shared with my friend Nick. Yeah, Pickles cast, we have a sheriff played by my old boss at the Art Institute, Sheriff Roy Utter. My friend Jeff Rosenstock plays Ben Dick. Our old friend Andrea Terry plays a saloon girl, Gilly Doody. Sandra Bullock, we have some stars in this. That's how we got Disney in. We said, what if we got a couple of big name stars in this? Would you give us some money? And it was kind of push, pull with Bob Chapek, who at the time was the CEO of Disney. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no, and I'll get to that later. But we got Sandra Bullock in as Madame Lash. Jeff Goldblum plays a sleazy card sharp named Bunghole Dick Swarm. Yes, it's like perfect for him. My cousin, Kent, plays newspaperman Rusty Smear. Jack White, schoolmarm Puddin' Jinx. Troy Morgan, I have actually got a picture of Troy here. He plays Bob High Pockets Johnson, our old friend Herb Massey, who was born with a shriveled arm and had like an arm like this long and 3 fingers, is our gunslinger. And by the end of the movie, our hero with pickles. They basically take out all the bad guys. The bad guys are an inbred rapist gang called ultimately the Ravish Brothers or the MTG gang, and it's basically members of the U.S. House. Louis Gohmert, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Jared Kushner, Tom Cotton, he's in the Senate. Yeah, but anyway, it's a political right-wingers who are actually this gang who basically the town of Pickles has to come up against. And it all kind of culminates in this incredible shootout at the end where Herb, our one-armed gunslinger, basically takes out all these guys with the help of Pickles, who basically wanders through the town center as this big gunfight's going on. And it's just like, bullets are just being fired from all directions and things like that. And as they hit her kind of magic barrel, they don't penetrate the barrel. They get deflected and deflected off into killing the gang. So that's kind of it. So Bob Chapek at Disney was on the fence about this. He didn't know what to do. He says, it's going to be incredibly violent. And I said, it's a family movie. And he said, no, it's not. It's not a family. I said, it is a family movie because we have a great idea. As we're showing this in theaters, as a theatrical release, the parts that are incredibly violent, we'll stop the film and take the kids out into the lobby for however long they have to be out there, 5, 10, 15 minutes. Then when it gets back into the regular story, and the violence is off screen, kids come back in, take their seat. That might happen 2 or 3 times. After we told him that, he was more open. He said, this might work. This really might work. He was kind of open to that idea, which I think is a great idea, but then he talked to his Disney group. I don't know, I'm not involved in that crap. And he came back and said, okay, there's going to be a trade-off. We want a Disney 3. And I went, what are you talking about? He goes, there's Disneyland, there's Disney World in Florida. We want a Disney 3. And I threw that out to my friend Nick, and we bounced it back and forth with it. Nick says, I hate my hometown. I hate my hometown of Danvers, Mass. Why don't we make a deal with Disney to wipe out, to completely destroy Danvers, Massachusetts? I went back to Bob, and he said, that is a great idea. How can we pull this off? And I said, maybe if Nick becomes mayor of Danvers, maybe he can start things moving.
I was strong-armed into this by Cy. I had no interest or much knowledge about this Disney 3 project, and before I knew it, my mayoral run is it's an uphill battle. Every day there's a new struggle, especially with Disney 3. And then I remember not showing interest at first, but when you're texted and get phone calls about it every day, like 6 or 7 times a day, eventually you just kind of relinquish. So that's when I became on board, when I knew it was a lose-lose for me. So if I didn't get on board, my life would be hell from here on out. So there you go. Now I'm a cheerleader for Disney 3.
And then we all got together, and Chapek goes, and what the heck? Chapek knows his history, and he said, what the heck? He said, Danvers is Old Salem. the Salem witch trials and stuff like that. He says, let's get rid of that history. We don't need it. We don't need it. It should be wiped out.
I never wanted to destroy Danvers. Went from a major city back to my hometown, and it's a complete dumpster fire.
I'm excited. Chapek said, I'm really excited. And he just said, yeah, let's find some place where we can have the families come and the kids can come and get that history. We don't need it. That's not who we are now. So that's kind of that's the overview of, Pickles and Pickles' life, which is kind of, it's taken a turn because we lost old Bob about, I think it was a year ago, and the new Bob came in.
Yeah, Disney changed hands, and
yeah, Iger has not been a help because Chapek was on board with so much of this, and it has been tough. It has been rough dealing with that guy. This whole DeSantis thing and DeSantis trying to control Disney in Florida has kind of upset him, and he doesn't really know how to handle it. He's not quite as adventurous as Chapek was, so everything's kind of on hold. Nick, we think that with his support, eventually he'll be able to become Danvers mayor and can start moving this forward. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Danvers, we picked Danvers because it means nothing to me, absolutely nothing. So if it's completely destroyed, I don't care. I want to get this movie made. I hope people aren't hurt in the process. There probably will be some people who refuse to leave their homes and are probably, die in the process. But this movie's important, and they'll be warned, and I don't care. I want to get this movie made, and I don't give a shit about Danvers.
It's hard to keep this PG. It's really profane. This world is so foul and disgusting and without morals, without law. We have to wait for the scorched earth to cool a bit once we decimate everything. But yes, Disney 3 will rise from the ashes like a great phoenix in Danvers, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on opening day.
Am I going to destroy? No, I'm not going to destroy Danvers. But if Danvers gets destroyed because of my dream, so be it.
Hey guys, Bob Iger's on board. DeSantis really pissed him off, and he's ready to start going. I'm flying Sunday to Danvers, and if you guys want to B-roll all but getting torn down, I suggest you book a flight because it's happening.
My friend Nick has to oversee basically the destruction of his town for Disney 3. And then if he does that, if he agrees for the complete destruction of his town, we can make Pickles. Now that's a good thing to put in the movie, to do that, but then have you laugh. Have you laugh. Keep the laugh in.